This is the Russian survival experiment. During the Cold War, Russian operatives wanted to see if their citizens could survive a nuclear fallout, but the one thing they couldn't account for was how radiation was going to affect local wildlife population. So in secret, they were testing radiation on animals and breeding these wild, hyper-violent creatures. Then they recruit a group of 12 adults and keep them in a bunker for 5 days, lying to them and saying that a bomb went off and all of their friends and family didn't make it. And then on day 5, they released them back into the woods along with all of the animals that they had been manipulating. This is actually one of the only photos ever collected from the trial, and it's believed that this is actually one of the animals they were working on in secret. The only thing we know is that one of these subjects was killed by one of these creatures almost immediately, which caused the other 11 to scatter in the woods and try and survive for the next few weeks. 11 skeletal remains were eventually found, all of them torn apart, and many of them missing their left hand. But a 12th skeleton was never found, leading many to believe that someone is still out there who knows exactly what went on.
Welcome back to the most amazing channel on YouTube, guys. Today I have an amazing and creepy TikTok videos for you. So if you are not yet subscribed, you better subscribe and click on the like button. It really helps with the algorithm. It makes YouTube recommend these videos to others as well. So without wasting time, let's start to watch the videos, guys.
If you are enjoying the content, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you're new here.
I always thought no one ever dies at Disney. Like, even if something horrible happens, they get the person off the park so they can always say that no one's ever died there. But then I found out not only is that not true, but a law firm has compiled all of the incidents. I'm going to share a few of them with you, but if you're interested in stories like this, make sure you follow the podcast because tonight's episode's just going to be these stories.
Okay.
So 2 of the park's worst accidents have both happened on the Matterhorn ride. One of them being a woman named Dolly, who in 1984 fell off of one of the back of the sleds onto the rails. At the time, these gondolas used to go into the rides, and so there was actually a family that watched her fall off onto the track. And so the family also saw as there was another car racing towards Dolly. The dad actually screamed at his daughters to cover their eyes, which was for the best because Dolly got hit hard. She got hit so hard that when EMTs arrived on the scene and were going up into the ride, there were park attendants coming down telling them not to look. And so finally, when someone was looking at the car she was in, they noticed that her seatbelt was unbuckled. But it's never been confirmed if she unbuckled her seatbelt herself or if an attendant didn't check her seatbelt well enough and it was never buckled in the first place.
Guys, this is so serious, guys. There's so many unsolved cases that is creepy, guys, because it's not unsolved because the cops or the police have no idea. They don't know how to solve it, and these mysteries remain unsolved. So today, guys.
Okay, so we have video evidence now that the Georgia Guidestones were not taken out by lightning. In this video that was just released, you can see a person running over and placing an explosive there and running away. What's even crazier is 4 days before this happened, this meme was shared on Truth Social, which is Trump's social media platform, of him taking out the Georgia Guidestones with an explosive. We also know that on the pillar that was destroyed, it said that there was a time capsule 6 feet below that spot. What did I say? The more we learn about it, the weirder it gets.
Guys, and these are some of the mysteries, guys. So also in a video, guys, someone ran to the building and left. So does that mean that the person placed a kind of bomb in there? Mystery yet to be solved, guys.
Our next contestant is Jean-Benet Ramsey.
Okay.
If JonBenet Ramsey was still alive, she'd be about to turn 32. Instead, a little girl who loved to show off in junior beauty pageants only made it to 6. On Boxing Day 1996, she was found in the basement of her home, beaten and strangled to death.
JonBenet Ramsey.
With JonBenet's murder.
JonBenet Ramsey.
JonBenet's murder stunned the world, but a quarter of a century later, the killer remains unknown. It was clear from the beginning that this was a crime like no other. The first John and Patsy Ramsey knew about it was when they woke up early on Boxing Day and discovered JonBenét wasn't in her bed. Concern became panic when the couple then found a note saying their daughter had been kidnapped and demanding $118,000 for her return.
What's going on there, ma'am? We got kidnapping. There's a ransom note here. It's a ransom note? Please. Okay, what's your name? Are you Patsy Ramsey? I'm the mother. Oh my God. Please.
Patsy Ramsey's 911 call certainly got police attention. But for the next 6 hours, with no sign of JonBenét, confusion seemed to be driving the search. The crime scene was contaminated, and early clues were either overlooked or discarded.
Your investigation focusing inside the Ramsey family or outside the Ramsey family as far as suspects?
Paula Woodward was a Colorado TV reporter when the story broke. She still remembers the chaos of the day, as well as the biggest police mistake of all: how JonBenét's body was discovered in the Ramseys' basement.
Her body was found by her father 6 hours after police were called, when the only detective in the house said, "Hey, why don't you look around?" That was one of the things that was just so unforgivable. Think what would have happened if the police had found the body had stayed where it was, instead of the father picking her up and running her upstairs.
What was that moment like, John?
Well, when I first found her, it was just a rush of, thank God I found her. And it was a relief, like an overwhelming relief that I'd found her. And then I realized pretty quickly that she wasn't alive. And I just screamed. But I'd found her.
The photos of a perfectly coiffed JonBenét as a beauty queen, combined with plenty of rumour and gossip, seemed to sway most of the public that John and Patsy were involved in something sinister. No number of denials, not to mention a lack of any evidence, could convince them otherwise. For years, the case dragged on. Sadly, in 2006, Patsy Ramsey died of cancer. But then 2 years later, a breakthrough of sorts. The Boulder District Attorney announced DNA from an unknown man had been found on clothing JonBenét was wearing when she was murdered. It's been a long and exhausting 25 years for John Ramsey. As if the murder of his daughter wasn't torment enough, he's also endured the death from cancer of JonBenét's mum, his wife Patsy. As well, he's faced constant scrutiny and often suspicion from the world's media.
I want to talk about the oath.
Wow, guys, this is so creepy, guys. So this is the question here, guys. Can it be the father who murdered the daughter and had to frame the whole story, or it was really a murder from someone whom we don't know? Guys, let me know your opinion below. Guys, comment below, let me know what you think about this, because this is creepy, guys. Very creepy.
Fallon Footage. On the eastern side of Missouri, a tape was recovered from a camera recorder of a missing man in 2002. This photo found in the footage has marked the most chilling mystery to have ever come out of this county. The man is pictured here. His name was Roy Schaefer, and he was sort of an amateur investigator. He would go to scenes with recent crimes, places where he could film, and he could sell the footage hopefully to a news station. And on an evening where he ventured to a hotspot where a woman had gone missing just a year prior, he would never make it home from that abandoned house. A police search was conducted by the following morning, as well as a search of the abandoned home and a search of this underpass where a significant amount of blood was recovered, but his body was not. They would also go on to find his camera recorder, where they would find that final footage. This was the face seen in the last frame of that video footage.
I bit the apple cause I loved you, and why would you lie? And then I realized you're just as naive as I am. Oh, you're so traumatized, it makes me want to cry. You dumb bitch, I loved you, I loved you, I loved you, it's true. I wanted to be you and do what you do.
This is the Russian survival experiment. During the Cold War, Russian operatives wanted to see if their citizens could survive a nuclear fallout, but the one thing they couldn't account for was how radiation was going to affect local wildlife population. So in secret, they were testing radiation on animals and breeding these wild, hyper-violent creatures. Then they recruit a group of 12 adults and keep them in a bunker for 5 days, lying to them and saying that a bomb went off and all of their friends and family didn't make it. And then on day 5, they released them back into the woods along with all of the animals that they had been manipulating. This is actually one of the only photos ever collected from the trial, and it's believed that this is actually one of the animals they were working on in secret. The only thing we know is that one of these subjects was killed by one of these creatures almost immediately, which caused the other 11 to scatter in the woods and try and survive for the next few weeks. 11 skeletal remains were eventually found, all of them torn apart, and many of them missing their left hand. But a 12th skeleton was never found, leading many to believe that someone is still out there who knows exactly what went on.
Guys, this is creepy, guys. So why will we do such strange trial on people, guys? Mysteries unsolved, guys. Creepy stuff.
Have you ever wondered how accurate progression photos are? Progression photos are what detectives use on people that went missing years and years ago to kind of guess what they would look like today. So I'm going to show you some photos of missing children, what their progression photo looked like, and what they actually looked like when they were found. And if you're new to my page, I do all sorts of true crime and ghost stories, so make sure you're following along. So here's the first one. Here's 2 kids that went missing when they were children. And here's what detectives guessed they would look like as they got older. But here's what they actually looked like when they were found. As you can tell, like the hair color is wrong, general face shape is kind of right. I guess on the little boy it's more accurate, but these look like pretty much completely different people. So here's another one. Here's a baby that went missing. And this is what detectives thought he might look like when he got older, and granted, it's so hard to do this on babies. As you can tell, he doesn't really look anything like what his progression photo looked like when he was eventually found, but this little girl below has some similar features to what they thought she would look like as she got older. I'm so happy that this group of kids got found, but it's also proof that you need to find kids as quickly as possible because they just start looking so different so quickly.
What is the greatest unsolved mystery of all?
But guys, it is still amazing how the police are able to draw and also predict how people will change or how we will look like if we grow. Because remember, at times it is sketched, guys. So it takes someone with that kind of creative skill enough to predict or let's say guess how you look like as you grow older. So I think the police are doing very well. I believe the sketches we just saw are just amazing. Yeah, because to be able to do this, it takes really a hard work to do those things.
All time. What the hell happened to the 3 escapees of the inescapable Alcatraz? If they did survive, that's one hell of a plan to escape undetected to this day. One of their mothers later got anonymous flowers on Mother's Day. I think they probably did survive but assumed new identities. 2 of the escapees were brothers, and it was their mom who got the flowers. At her funeral, 2 tall and ugly women were present, but left immediately afterwards and didn't speak to anybody. The Chicago Tylenol murders in 1982. Who would do such a thing and why? Was it one person acting alone? Did they do it at the distribution center, or did they go to different locations to tamper with the bottles?
The more I learn about this Georgia Guidestone bombing, the weirder it gets. Yesterday at 4 a.m., authorities said that the Georgia Guidestones were damaged in an explosion, which destroyed one of the pillars. And if you don't know, the Guidestones were built in 1980 by a man using a fake name and are referred to as America's Stonehenge. They feature a guide to humanity written in 8 different languages, which I'm going to get to in a sec. But then it was announced that it was actually a lightning strike, which this is the dimmest lightning strike I've ever seen, if that's the case. But conspiracy theorists have long been obsessed with the Guidestones because of the weird writings on them. The guide to humanity includes maintaining humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature and guiding reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity, which isn't so much a guide to humanity as it is eugenics. But the weirdest part of all of this is on the pillar that was destroyed by the explosion, it says that there is a time capsule placed 6 feet below this spot, and it's supposed to be opened on, and then no date. The rest of the pillars were actually demolished yesterday, but do we think someone was trying to get to the time capsule? Also, what could have been inside of it?
The Belmez faces. In 1971, Maria Gomez Camara noticed that a weird stain appeared on her kitchen floor, and as days passed, it began to form into a human-looking face. What's more disturbing is the fact that she noticed that the face was changing positions. She tried to scrub the stain away, but when that failed, she had her husband and son destroy the image with a pickaxe. But a new face formed on the floor when they re-cemented. Hearing about the events, the mayor ordered the image to be taken out for study, and after its removal, they reconcreted and thought their issue was resolved. But within a week, not only had the face reappeared, but more also formed. In the following year, Professor de Argumosa heard about the case, and in his research, he found that a 17th century governor of Granada had murdered 5 members of a family nearby or in Maria's house. The floor was fully excavated, and human remains were found and were reburied in a Catholic cemetery. After the removal of the remains, everyone thought that this was the end of it. But 2 weeks later, they were back and were different than the first stains. After extracting samples, it was concluded that these faces are not made from paint. And, quote, according to scientific knowledge and techniques employed in the analysis, there is no external manipulation or elements. Maria died in 2004, and the phenomenon continues to this day.
Wow, guys, this is creepy and also very amazing to me because it helped the guys. So in a way, the dead were able to show their faces on the floor, and this should help them to assume their remains and properly buried as they should. This is creepy, guys. This is so strange. Let's watch the rest.
This physician is talking about what's going on in Colonia High School. If you haven't heard about this mystery, there are a staggering number of students and former teachers who have either attended or worked at this school who have all been diagnosed with the same type of brain cancer. Glioblastoma is one of the most aggressive brain tumors in the medical world, and doctors don't know what could be causing it from this particular school. The stats around this are insane. They found that students who attended this school are 330 times more likely than the national population to develop this particular type of brain cancer. We just have no idea what it is about this location that's causing it.
So there's a question, guys. So there's something there. It can be that maybe they are performing some experiments or some experimentations that is causing all the strange brain issues, guys. I think mostly when you move into experimentation of strange stuff, guys, it also cause some strange stuff to you as well.
Busy thinking about
What was your creepiest glitch in the Matrix experience? When I was 17, I was sleeping over at a friend's house. I had to work the next morning and had to get up at 7 a.m. to go to work. So we go to bed. I set an alarm for 7 and go to sleep. The next morning my alarm goes off. I sit up, it's light out. I see my friend asleep with her girlfriend in their bed. I was on a mattress on the floor. I started to get up, but decided to go back to sleep for 15 minutes, so I set my alarm for 7:15 and lay back down. What seems like hours later, I jerk up because I thought I had slept through my alarm. I grab my phone and it says 3 a.m. I look around, it's still dark out. At this point I'm like, what the F? I get up and wake up my friend and ask her what time it is, and she checks her phone and tells me 3 a.m. I thought I had just had a super vivid dream, but when I checked my phone, the alarm had been changed to 7:15. Still have no idea what happened. When I was in jail for a DUI, I had a dream that my mom died in her sleep 2 weeks later. I received a call from my brother that my mom passed peacefully in her sleep. I told my dad about the dream over the phone before it happened. Next time I called him he was legitimately freaked out. We couldn't explain it. Still can't.
Just naive as I am. Oh, you're so traumatized, it makes me wanna cry. You dumb bitch, I loved you, I loved you, I loved you, it's true. I wanted to be you and do what you do. Oh, you're so traumatized, it makes me wanna cry. You dumb bitch,
The topic that last video was going over was the case of the Black Dollia. Elizabeth Short was an actress living in Los Angeles who was at the top of her game. But all of that would change when tragedy struck one winter day on January 15th. Elizabeth's body would be found laying down on her front lawn with a blanket over her. But the thing is, she looked so pale that people that were walking by thought she was just a mannequin. After it was realized that this was not a mannequin and it was indeed a human, they removed the blanket to find a horrible sight. Elizabeth had been completely cut in half, and her body had been completely drained of its blood blood. It's actually commonly believed that whoever did this had some sort of medical background with surgery or something like that, because her body was bisected perfectly. There was no damage to her internal organs at all, and her face was also cut to leave a haunting, everlasting smile. But the horrors don't end there. Later, the Los Angeles Examiner would receive messages on a piece of paper. Later, the Los Angeles Examiner would receive some very interesting letters, and on these letters it was detailing the murder, and it was describing the girl, calling her the Dahlia. But the police couldn't even use these letters for fingerprints because whoever wrote them smeared gasoline all over the paper so that all the fingerprints would be removed. And to this day, nobody knows who did it. It's an extremely haunting case that never leaves my mind, and that's why I made this video.
You're just as naive as I am.
Guys, this is creepy, guys. Who can go through that stream? Who is so... This murders, guys, is so scary, so creepy. Who go that stream to murder such an innocent woman?
If someone were to ask me what case would I want the answers to most, I would say Brian Schaefer. And I already made a TikTok about Brian, but it was horrible. It's from when I first started making videos and the music was too loud and I left out a lot of information and I didn't know how to organize it the best, so I'm gonna remake it now. I also just got a new iPhone 12, so I'm excited to make my first video with it. This is going to be a deep dive, so if you don't like how long my videos are, you don't like how many parts I make, I'm sorry, but I just like giving all the information. Brian Randall Schaefer has been missing since April 1st of 2006 at the age of 27. He was last seen at the Ugly Tuna Saloona in Columbus, Ohio. I feel so close to this case mostly because I'm from Ohio, not far from Columbus, and I've been to the bar that Brian was last seen at. I also just find it the most perplexing case ever. Brian was born February 25th, 1979 in Pickerington, Ohio, to his mother Renee and father Randy. He also has a younger brother named Derek. Brian graduated high school in 1997 and attended the Ohio State University. He graduated with a degree in microbiology. After that, he attended Ohio State College of Medicine in 2004. In March of 2006, Brian's mother passed away from a rare form of cancer. Brian's friends and family have stated that he took her death hard but was handling it well. Brian was dating another medical student named Alexis Wagner. It's never been proven, but people believe that Brian was about to propose to Alexis soon, most likely on their upcoming vacation to Miami for spring break. Classes at Ohio State had just ended for spring break, so Brian and his father Randy went out for a steak dinner to celebrate. Brian's father noted that he seemed exhausted and thought Brian shouldn't go out that night, but he never said anything to Brian. Brian met with his friend Clint Florence at the Ugly Tuna at 9 p.m. This bar is in the South Campus Gateway Complex on High Street in Columbus, and it's actually a second floor bar, so there's escalators that lead up to the area where the bar entrance is. Brian called Alexis about an hour after arriving and left her a voicemail. The voicemail just pretty much states that he misses her and that he can't wait to see her. Alexis was in her hometown of Toledo visiting her family before vacation with Brian. Brian and Clint planned to bar hop and have one shot at each bar in the Arena District of Columbus. Just after midnight, the two ended up at a bar called Brothers, which was in the Arena District. They met up with Clint's friend Meredith Reed. Meredith agreed to give them a ride back to the Ugly Tuna where they had started the night and joined them for a last round. At some point, Brian is seen coming back up the escalators accompanied by two females. He's seen on CCTV talking to the two girls for a few minutes and then enters back into the bar. Brian told Clint and Meredith that he was going to talk to the band 5 minutes before the bar was to close and became separated from them. At 2 a.m. while the bar was closing, Meredith and Clint were unable to locate Brian and he wouldn't answer their phone calls. Go to part 2.
Wow, guys. So where's Brian now? Has he chosen to escape, or he has been adapted to some place? Oh, I wish and I pray he's seen, right?
Strange disappearance of Bryce Laspa, part 3. At 6 p.m. when Bryce still hadn't came home, nor had anyone heard from him, Bryce's parents officially reported him missing. And after AT&T performs an emergency ping, they find that Bryce is still in Button Willow, 9 hours later. Police eventually located him, and after speaking to him and issuing a sobriety test, which he passes, they deem him okay. They tell him that he needs to call his parents, in which he almost refuses. The police had to physically dial his parents' phone number for him. Bryce tells everyone that he's just there to blow off some steam, and despite his obviously fragile mental state, his parents still just tell him to come home, and hangs up again. A few hours go by, and Bryce's parents receive a phone call from the worker who had helped him earlier that day. He states that Bryce is still just sitting in the same exact spot. The worker offers to follow Bryce until he gets on the highway headed in his parents' direction, and when he does, he stops following him. A little while later, Bryce's parents call him, demanding to know where he's at and which landmarks he's near, and all Bryce says is that it's too dark and, quote, the GPS says I'll be home at 3 a.m., end quote. But that's not what happened.
Let's talk about a female spy.
So if that's not what happened, guys, what really happened? If you have an idea about this issue, can you comment below? Let me know what really happened, guys.
In the summer of 1778, during the British occupation of New York, George Washington formed a spy ring called the Culper Ring. The Culper Ring used secret ciphers, invisible ink, and even published coded messages in newspapers. Agent 355 was a female member of the Culper spy ring. She was such a good spy that to this day we still don't know who she was, even though we know who most of the men were. 355 was decrypted from the Culper Ring's code to mean lady. And Abraham Woodhull once wrote a letter to George Washington saying that Agent 355 could outwit them all. We also know that her intelligence was incredibly reliable. She would funnel tons of information to George Washington whenever British leaders were in town. So scholars believe that she was a member of a prominent loyalist family. Scholars think that high-ranking British officers would talk freely about troop movements around her because she was a woman and they just didn't think that she cared, essentially making her invisible but always putting her in the room where it happens. She's thought to have played a major role in exposing Benedict Arnold. Part 2 is up.
Guys, wow, so what an amazing woman, guys. So these are the people we need to serve the nation.
I think my great-grandmother was a murderer. Part 2. So I have a little bit of a corrections corner. The family member I'm referring to is my great-grandmother. Me being the one circled in purple, and her being the one circled in yellow. See, my grandparents, those ones right here, were born in 1934, which would mean that my great-grandma was born probably sometime around the 1800s. But guess what? We have a name now. I had to pry at my dad about this, but I finally got a name. Her name is Yolanda Hipólito. I don't know much about her except that she has connections to Argentina. So for those of you who would like to help me solve this mystery, should I start a Discord? Let me know in the comments.
Yo, what's
okay.
up? These are horrifying facts, part 2. In 1912, a clown by the name of Achille Chateauneuf, or the French Tickler, passed away, and he asked for his body to be embalmed and displayed for all the world to see in his favorite clown costume forever. When Chateauneuf passed away, his family had his face hermetically sealed with clown makeup and dressed him up in his favorite clown costume from the Shriners Parade in the 1900s. Chateauneuf's body was even one of the last ones to ever go through the process of gravity embalming, where they strapped the body to a table, turned the table upside down, and while they let the chemicals flow in the body, he is continuously bleeding out. This 105-year-old creepy clown's body is now displayed in a glass coffin in North Hollywood at the California Institute of Abnormal Arts, and it sits there waiting for the next visitor.
Wow, guys, this is so creepy. So guys, anyone who has ever got there to see it, let me know, comment below, and comment your experience, guys.
Margerie McCall lived with her husband in Northern Ireland in the 1700s. She died of fever and was hastily buried to prevent the spread of it. She was buried with her wedding ring, which was known to be very valuable. Grave robbers found out about this and so dug up her coffin. They tried to remove the wedding ring from her, but they couldn't because her fingers had swollen considerably since death. They then decided to cut off her finger. As soon as blood was drawn, Margerie came back to life. She wasn't actually dead, but was in a coma-like state. She then sat bolt upright and screamed. At home, her husband was sitting with their children and relatives. He then heard a knock at the door and said to his kids, if your mother was still alive, I would swear that was her knock. Apparently when he opened the door, he died of shock. He was then buried in the plot that Margerie had recently vacated. She remarried and had several more kids. She eventually died for real, and her gravestone reads, lived once, buried twice.
Wow. What an amazing story, guys. It's just amazing. It does happen, guys. It does happen. People are able to, in a way, magically miss their death, really begin, and their actual death comes.
This is a place you don't want to be at night. Welcome to the Texas killing fields. Over 30 unsolved murders happen in this area. It's outside of Houston, Texas, and right here in this field, 4 different bodies were discovered, and no one has ever been linked to the crimes. I went ghost hunting here one night, and on one of our devices, we actually received the name of the lead suspect. It's absolutely insane footage, and the area is super creepy when it's dark. If you want to hear the full story of the killing fields, go listen to my podcast, Murder in America, episode number 2. And the video of my investigation will be on my YouTube soon.
So guys, it is very simple. Never go to such quiet places or parks where you won't see people, because if you are among the crowd, you are a bit safe. But don't go to such haunted places, guys, because if you're alone in the woods, you are open for attack. So let us live a careful life, guys. A careful life.
It's actually one of the craziest unsolved mysteries of all time. This manuscript is over 400 pages long, written over 1,000 years ago, in an unknown language, and they contain pictures and diagrams of things that we don't even know exist. It's called the Vonage Manuscript. It was discovered in 1912 and has diagrams of plants unidentifiable on Earth. It also has strange diagrams and very odd scenarios depicted. Almost all of it still can't be decoded, and leads some people to believe that it came from an ancient alien civilization years and years and years ago.
Guys, there are so many ancient stuff that so today we can still decrypt the code. Meanwhile, many are saying that if you are able to encrypt or decrypt such codes, guys, there are so many mysteries that we will be prone to, right? But yet, those mysteries are still unsolved, guys. And personally, we can't solve them because they remain mysterious to us. And guys, thank you very much for watching the video to this far. I'll see you in the next reaction video. Bye bye.